For many, he was a mere construction worker. But his demonic reality shocked everyone when the Mafia pierced the veil he was hiding behind. Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. So, a couple of cocky troublemakers decided to stir up drama at a construction site. What they didn't expect was that the dude in charge wasn't some average foreman. Nope, it was none other than Jason freaking Statham. Before they could even blink, Jason had them on the ground, completely outmatched. One of their buddies, still trying to act brave, looked like he might jump in, until Jason pulled out a hidden weapon and basically told him, "Try me." The guys scrambled out of there real quick. Turns out, Jason wasn't out there taking care of bees or living a peaceful life. He was the site manager now. But not everyone got the memo to leave him alone. A bunch of goons showed up thinking they could push him around. Big mistake. Jason handled each one like a pro, especially when one of them pulled a piece. Jason grabbed a tool and knocked it away like it was nothing. When backup showed up, he calmly pulled out a shotgun. One look down that barrel was enough to make them raise their hands and back off. Jenny, the daughter of Jason's boss, happened to witness the whole thing. Her jaw was on the floor. She had no clue her uncle Levon was such a beast. After work, Levon headed to his father-in-law's house. There was some kind of weekend get-together going on, but for Levon, it was visitation day with his daughter. As soon as he arrived, his father-in-law came charging over with some heat, blaming Levon for not being around more when his wife was alive. Levon didn't argue. He knew he'd messed up. He just took the scolding in silence. He took his daughter out for dinner and gave her a small gift. When she opened it, it was a photo of her mom. Her granddad had hidden all pictures of her, so the poor girl barely remembered her face. That picture meant everything to her. Later, Levon met with his lawyer. Turns out his father-in-law was trying to paint him as unfit for custody, claiming he had PTSD and was violent. The man even wanted to cut down Levon's visitation time to just 1 hour every 2 weeks. Levon was furious. After dedicating over 2 decades of his life to serving the country, now he was being treated like a threat. He handed over every last dollar he had, 10 grand, to the lawyer and asked them to help him fight back. The lawyer asked why his father-in-law hated him so much. Levon finally shared the painful truth. His wife had battled depression for years, and the day she took her life, he was away on a mission overseas. Since then, her father had never forgiven him. The lawyer gave it to him straight. This was going to be a brutal legal battle, and if they lost, Levon might lose everything. Meanwhile, Jenny went out with her friends to blow off steam at a nightclub. The girls were dancing, not realizing someone was recording them from above. Later, when Jenny stumbled off drunk to the bathroom, a creep slipped something in her drink and carried her off. The next morning, Levon showed up at work like usual, only to see a bunch of cops leaving the office. Turns out, Jenny had been missing since Friday, and it was now Monday. The cops didn't seem too concerned. They just filed a report and left. Jenny's parents were freaking out. They begged Levon to help. He refused at first. He'd left that life behind. Even a $50,000 offer didn't change his mind. But deep down, he couldn't let it go. That night, Levon drove over to see an old war buddy, Bob. They'd been through hell together, though Bob could barely see now. When Levon told him what was going on, Bob didn't sugarcoat it. If Levon was going to do this, he had to go all in. No regrets. So the next day, Levon showed up at Jenny's place. Her dad looked like he'd aged a decade overnight. Levon understood the pain. He'd been through it himself. He promised to bring her back safe. He started by checking out the nightclub. Right away, he noticed things were shady. The bar owner was moving serious amounts of drugs behind the scenes. Levon found a back alley, spotted that the cameras had been tampered with, and even found one of Jenny's earrings on the ground. When the owner shut the place down and drove off, he didn't know Levon had slipped a tracker under his car. Levon followed him home, broke in, and caught him completely off guard. With a shotgun aimed straight at him, Levon demanded answers. The guy tried lying, saying Jenny just wandered off drunk. Levon wasn't buying it. He dumped a towel in water and started waterboarding him. Still, the guy kept his mouth shut, warning Levon that whoever took Jenny was too powerful for him to mess with. Before Levon could get more out of him, another thug kicked the door in. Levon used the bar owner as cover and shot down the newcomer in seconds. When he checked the body, he noticed a tattoo. It was Russian. This wasn't just a random thug. He took the guy's ID and grabbed a pile of cash from the house before leaving. The next day, Levon was waiting near an apartment complex when a fancy car pulled up. Three shady-looking guys stepped out and went inside. Levon knew exactly who they were, big names in the Russian Mafia. From the way the room looked, it was clear there had been a fight, and some low-level members had been killed. Carl, a senior gang member, found out some cash had gone missing, and saw the wounds were from shotgun. But there was no shotgun at the scene, which meant someone else had been there. Someone who dared to mess with their crew. Later, the gang's cleanup team arrived to wipe the scene. Carl and his crew got in their car and left. Levon quietly tailed them all the way to a villa out in the sticks. He parked at a distance, slipped into the woods, and set up surveillance gear. That's when he saw Carl inside, roughing up a woman. After a big fight, she stormed off and drove away. Now, it was just Carl left in the house, and Levon had his opening. Levon made sure to wear a cap before sneaking into the villa, just to make sure no security cameras got a good look at him. Once inside, he casually grabbed a pot of steaming hot coffee and dumped the whole thing right onto Carl's face. Carl screamed and passed out instantly from a burn. When he finally woke up, he was tied to a chair on the edge of the pool, barely hanging on. One look at Levon, and Carl figured it out. This was the same guy who'd taken out his crew and stolen their stash. Trying to save his own skin, Carl bragged that he was a top guy in the Brotherhood. Said Levon was messing with the wrong people and the gang would be after him soon. Levon didn't even flinch. He smacked Carl hard across the face, saying that hit was for the woman Carl had beaten earlier. Carl looked confused. He couldn't believe someone outside the gang had the guts to interfere in his personal life. Levon gave him another slap, then threw a wad of Carl's own cash in his face before pulling out a photo of Jenny. It finally clicked. Levon wasn't doing this for money. He was doing it for a girl. Carl still thought Levon was bluffing, though, so he refused to talk. That's when Levon kicked the chair right into the pool. Carl thrashed underwater, choking and panicking. Levon let him up just enough to breathe, then played a phone recording he'd swiped from earlier. The recording mentioned a guy named Day bringing heat to the crew. That was Levon's next lead. Meanwhile, Carl's body got fished out by the gang's cleanup crew. Word spread fast. A high-ranking member was dead. That was enough to bring the Brotherhood's top boss out of hiding. He showed up at the house to check the footage and realized the attacker didn't care about money. So what was his real goal? He ordered his men to hunt Levon down immediately. Somewhere else, Jenny was locked in a dark cell. When her food was brought in, she tried to explain that her parents were peaceful people and wouldn't have crossed anyone. That just made the woman bringing her food furious. She snapped, pulled out a knife, and held it to Jenny's throat. Things got real for Jenny then. She wasn't some spoiled kid anymore. If she wanted to live, she had to follow orders. First one, eat without talking back. The next day, Levon rang up an old buddy, Detective Kevin, and asked him to look into this Day character. Word was that Day was into drugs and trafficking and owned a bar in Joliet where he sold top-grade stuff for the Russians. Kevin confirmed it. Levon wasted no time and drove straight to the place. He walked in, took a seat, and started scoping the place out. His cautious behavior didn't go unnoticed. Jules, watching through security cams, thought he looked suspicious. Might even be a cop. She told her guy, Mike, to go check him out. Mike sat next to Levon, and Levon pulled out a fat stack of cash, making it clear he was there for business. Mike led him to a back room where Day waited. Day greeted Levon, but immediately asked why he was packing heat. Levon calmly said it was just for protection. This kind of business was risky, after all. Jules still wasn't convinced and whispered that Levon had that cop vibe. Now Day got tense and told Levon to hand over his gun. Levon refused. The tension shot up and Day's guys circled him. Levon didn't blink. He threw punches left and right, taking them down like it was nothing. The more Levon fought, the more amused Day looked. Just as Levon shattered a bottle, ready to go even harder, Day raised his hand to stop the fight. He felt Levon's hands, rough and full of calluses. That wasn't a cop's hand. Levon explained he used to be in the military. That sealed it. Day relaxed and sat down to talk shop. Levon said he wanted to move 4 pounds of high-quality product every month. His old supplier had vanished, and Day's reputation brought him here. They agreed on $10,000 per pound. First deal, tomorrow, 7 p.m., at a pancake shop. Levon showed up at the agreed time. Jules and Mike were already there. They took the cash but didn't hand over the product. Instead, they tossed him a phone. Moments later, Day called and told Levon the stash was already under the steering wheel. Levon ended the call, took the goods, and chucked them into a nearby river. Later that evening, Jules delivered Jenny to a buyer. But during inspection, the drug girl bit the buyer's face. Furious, the man screamed for Jules to take her away. Meanwhile, Day called Levon again, saying someone important wanted to meet him. Levon was told to dress up and bring cash. Next day, Levon arrived at a fancy location in a suit. He met a guy named Dammy, Day's boss and the son of the man Levon had drowned in the pool. Dammy didn't follow his dad into the Brotherhood, though. He was into trafficking and drug money. Super paranoid, he asked for Levon's business card before even talking. Once that checked out, they made a deal. After getting the goods, Levon went home and destroyed them. He went back over old photos from the night Jenny vanished and spotted Mike in one of them. That connected the dots. Levon then dug out a phone he'd stolen during his earlier raid and found texts related to Jenny. Fired up, he raced to the bar, staking out at night. But Jules caught on. Levon sensed he was compromised and grabbed a motorcycle to make a fast getaway. A wild chase broke out. Bullets flew everywhere, but Levon zigzagged through tight alleys like a pro. His pursuers tried cutting him off, but he slipped through, only to crash right into a police cruiser. Worst part? The cops were on Dammy's payroll. One officer even pistol-whipped Levon and handed him over to two guys, sons of the Godfather himself. They dragged him into a car, grilling him about Day. Levon cracked jokes about their flashy suits, calling them circus clowns. That pushed their buttons, and while they were distracted, Levon flipped the script. He snatched a gun, fought like hell, and the car spun out, slamming into a barrier and flipping by a riverbank. Levon grabbed the gun and shot both men without hesitation. Then, with one hard push, he sent the overturned car into the river. But the bodies were found, and the Godfather was beyond furious. Back at the bar, Dammy sat with Jules and Mike. After the last delivery had gone sideways, and the VIP buyer got half his face bitten off, Dammy had to shell out $200,000 to make things right. Enraged, he nearly sliced off Mike's finger. Eventually, he calmed down, but it didn't end there. Now the client wanted Jenny dead to wipe the slate clean. On the other side, the Godfather called an emergency meeting with his top guys. He talked about all the recent deaths in the gang, blaming them on a mystery man. They, who knew who it was, had vanished. The Godfather gave one order: find Levon fast. Then the Godfather stormed into Dammy's club with armed men. Gunfire erupted, customers ran screaming, and chaos took over. Dammy turned ghost white. He wanted to scream, but didn't dare. The Godfather looked dead into Dammy's eyes and broke the news. His father had been found drowned, and now both his sons were gone too. Dammy's expression froze. The Godfather could tell the guy was clueless about any of this. When the crew handed over a photo of Levon, Dammy's face turned ghost white. He tried to explain himself fast, claiming he didn't know who Levon really was when they met. Said they'd only talked once during a deal and never kept in touch. But what gave him away was a fake ID pic of Levon that he'd held onto. That's when the Godfather left the place, but he wasn't done yet. Using that fake ID, his team quickly uncovered Levon's background, name, history, even where his daughter and father-in-law lived. The old man, completely unaware of the danger coming his way, was stretching along with a yoga show on TV when two armed men suddenly barged into his house. Meanwhile, Levon got a call from his kid's school. Her grandpa hadn't shown up to pick her up. He rushed to the school and found his daughter waiting. She looked at him, confused, and asked if something bad had happened to Grandpa. She'd sent him dozens of texts. No replies. Jokingly, she asked if Levon had killed him. He gave her a weak smile and explained that he'd done some dangerous stuff in the past, and now someone was trying to get back at him. He just didn't want his family caught in the middle. He checked his phone again. His father-in-law's location was still the house. Levon hit the gas. When he arrived, he found the place engulfed in flames. He told his daughter to stay put, then rushed into the fire. Somehow, he managed to drag the old man out. After regaining consciousness, the old man finally softened up a little toward Levon. Paramedics arrived and took him away. Levon knew they had to disappear for a while, so he drove his daughter to Bob's place, a longtime friend. Bob didn't ask questions. He could tell Levon wouldn't be running like this unless something serious was going down. Levon still hadn't given up on finding Jenny, though. He figured that if he could get to Mike, he might get some answers. Instead of telling him to quit, Bob walked him to a room full of weapons, his personal collection. Levon's eyes landed on a beast of a rifle, an unmarked M14. Big power, long range. Just what he needed. That night, Levon geared up and promised his daughter that he'd be back. Meanwhile, Jules and Mike were figuring out what to do with Jenny. But Jenny wasn't some helpless princess. Her grandfather had been in the Air Force, and she picked up a few skills along the way. She waited for her chance, then struck, causing the car they were in to crash hard into a tree. Jenny slipped out first and sprinted toward the forest. She scraped herself against a branch until her restraints broke loose. Jules and Mike tried to keep up, but she vanished into the woods. Jules cursed nonstop. If they screwed this up, both of them were done. Jenny ran until she saw a police car and breathed a sigh of relief. But she didn't know yet, some cops were in on it. The car took her to an isolated house. By the time she sensed something was off, it was too late. Just then, the client Jenny had bitten earlier called Jules through video. To everyone's surprise, the guy was obsessed with her now and wanted her delivered again. Gross. Levon, on the other hand, stormed into Dammy's bar. He moved fast, taking out guards with clean hits, then used one of the bodies to bait and drop another. Within minutes, the place was a massacre. Blood everywhere. Dammy tried grabbing a hostage, but Levon shot him clean through the hand. He shoved a photo of Jenny in his face, demanding info. Dammy, scared out of his mind, agreed to lead him to her. On the drive, Levon showed him a picture of Mike. That's when he learned Mike was the guy picking and transporting the girls. Dammy even joked, calling Mike their HR manager. Levon didn't find it funny. He broke Dammy's nose with one punch. They pulled up to a hidden facility with armed guards posted outside. Levon asked one last time if Jenny was in there. When Dammy confirmed it, Levon threw him in a pond and shot him twice. No hesitation. Levon strapped on his gear, took a breath, and slipped inside using night vision goggles. He picked off guards silently from the trees. Meanwhile, they, hearing about the bloodbath at Dammy's bar, grabbed weapons and rallied his men. Back at the compound, one unlucky guy stepped out for a smoke. Levon silenced him with a blade. Inside, Jenny was still chained up. Mike and another guy were holding her down, waiting for that creepy client again. Levon busted in with his M14 blazing. Even though the thugs were strapped, they were no match. Levon's shots were like lightning. Each one found his target. Day showed up, but even he couldn't close the skill gap. As Levon switched mags, Day lunged, but Levon disarmed him and they went at it with blades. It wasn't a fight, more like a beatdown. 2 moves in, Levon buried a knife in Day's throat. Levon heard Jenny's voice crying out. He followed it, shot the creep trying to hurt her, then dealt with Mike, who was out of ammo and scrambling. One elbow to the neck later, Mike was out cold. Jenny wrapped her legs around Jules, squeezing until she passed out. Levon broke Jenny's chains and helped her out. Suddenly, 2 more enemies stormed in, members of the Godfather's crew. A couple of crooked cops had shown up too, but they got shot by Ian before doing anything. Levon used a scanner strapped to his chest to locate the remaining threats. One shot to Ian, and he was down. The last guy ducked for cover. Levon lobbed a grenade right next to him. Boom, problem solved. With the whole operation crushed, Levon grabbed Jenny and left. Outside, the Godfather gathered what was left of the Brotherhood. He decided it wasn't worth chasing Levon anymore. It would just lead to more bodies. All he could do was rage. Levon returned Jenny safely to her parents and finally reunited with his daughter. That closed the chapter.